Christopher Bell sneaking up to get the win right at the end to advance him to the next round of the playoffs, while championship defending driver Kyle Larson is eliminated in a wild, chaotic ending race at the Charlotte Roval. Let's talk about it. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's talk about NASCAR at the Charlotte Roval, the 5th annual race at the Roval, and it once again had a crazy, chaotic finish and some crazy restarts at the end of this race, as we have seen repeatedly at this new Charlotte configuration. We're going to talk about all that happened at the end of that race. We're going to talk about what that did to the playoff grid after eliminating 4 drivers, one of those a surprise driver eliminated after today's race. And then, of course, we're going to talk about a few more concerns, unfortunately, with the next-gen car that does have to be addressed and needs to be addressed. I'll talk about that at the end of the video, but let's talk about the good first. Let's talk about the chaotic racing. Whether you like the chaos or not, this was a chaotic race, and we do need to address all of the stuff that happened at the end of it. It looked a little sloppy at the end, but that's kind of how these road courses have ended. I go back to the Indianapolis road course. That's kind of what we get. So let's start out by talking about your winner. Christopher Bell is the first Toyota to win. I know, a Toyota winning on a road course. Who would have ever thought that, the way the first part of the season went? But Christopher Bell's really been the fastest Toyota all year long. Him and Adam Stevens. Adam Stevens obviously is a great crew chief. He won 2 championships with Kyle Busch. He's still in the playoffs, going to the round of 8, going to the 8-ball round with Christopher Bell, a younger driver. Adam Stevens is a very talented crew chief, and he made a very good call at the end of this race. I really do hate, as a Kyle Busch fan, that we lost Adam Stevens after 2020, but Adam Stevens just knows how to get it done. That's why he is the best. That's why Christopher Bell's team is the best team this season. It's not just Christopher Bell. I'm not down talking Christopher Bell, but Christopher Bell and Adam Stevens together is a power duo, and we're seeing it. And these guys, I'm not going to say a championship favorite over Chase Elliott, but they're a threat to make the championship 4 100%. And if you make the championship 4, you're a threat to make the championship race. And as all I've seen from the beginning of the year to this point, Christopher Bell's not out of it. They decided to make the call at the end of this race. We had a caution for debris, a questionable call for debris. We had one of the signs on the racetrack sitting in the middle of the track. NASCAR obviously threw the yellow for debris. Right, I think it was about 3-4 laps to go, maybe a little more. I think it was 5 laps to go. That put Christopher Bell in a position where he went and down pit road and got 4 tires. He was way faster than everybody else and was able. They actually had another caution after that. Then that really gave him an advantage, and he was able to pull away and get the win. So Christopher Bell, his second road course win, by the way. He won at the Daytona road course, so he's good at Rovals. He won the Daytona road course in 2021, last season, all the way back in February 2021. So a second Roval win for Christopher Bell, you will, but that's a great call. He was in a must-win situation. He was not going to advance through into the next round without a win, but he was able to get the win. Therefore, he is in the next round of the playoffs, while Kyle Larson is not. So let's go through the top 10 just real quick. I want to explain everything that kind of happened here. Kevin Harvick finishing second, was able to kind of ram his way up through there and get a second place finish. Kyle Busch, another one of those drivers on 4 fresh Goodyear tires, was able to run his way all the way back up to third. A.J. Allmendinger. This is A.J. Allmendinger's 4th top 10 at road courses this season, and that's not including a couple of the races he was in contention to win at. If you go back to Dakota at the beginning of this year in Austin, Texas, he was very well in contention to win that race before Chastain kind of punted him out of the way there. But A.J. Allmendinger, another top 10. It's really impressive what he's able to do at road courses. It is super difficult to be running a part-time schedule and consistently finish in the top 10, much less top 5, much less race for wins like he did today at the road courses, week in and week out when we go to these road courses. A.J. Allmendinger is so talented at these road courses in a stock car. It'll be interesting to see what he can do next year going full-time. I think he could win some of these things. I mean, he's always in the end. A.J. Allmendinger's always in the mix at these road course races at the end of them. Justin Haley, another great run for him. This Trackhouse team, or not Trackhouse, this colleague racing team has been exceptionally fast all year long. That's a back-to-back finishes by colleague, obviously 4th and 5th. But Justin Haley, a great finish for him. Another top 5, another top 10 on the year for him. He's really improved as we've gotten into the second half of the season. Chris Buescher, a great run for him. Finished in the top 10 at these road courses pretty frequently. He's had a chance to maybe win a couple of these road courses. Chris Buescher has, finishing 6th. Bubba Wallace finishing 7th. Another Toyota up there in the top 10. He made a mistake early on, was able to recover from that. Tyler Reddick was probably another one of those really fast race cars. Could have had a chance to win this race, but unfortunately with all the roaming through people and taking people out at the final couple of restarts. He ended up cycling back to 8th place, and then of course you had Chase Briscoe finishing in the 9th position, which does advance him into the next round, and then Austin Dillon able to finish 10th. By the way, I want to go back to Chase Briscoe. He made a impressive move at the end to kind of dive into the corner, but then was able to make it stick and was able to gain the 2 positions that he needed to advance into the next round of the playoffs. So that brings us over to our playoff grid. And before I talk about the playoff grid, I do want to mention that Chase Elliott was probably the fastest car in this race. Chase Elliott dominated this race from start to finish, or really at least from the start of the 3rd stage to the finish of the 3rd stage until we had the caution for debris. Chase Elliott was in. I'll just show the final restart here. Might as well, because it's really important. You see Kevin Harvick kind of knocks Chase Elliott out the way a little bit there, gets a little rumbled up there, and then of course then you see Chase Elliott just gets kind of spun by the 8. I know the 8 was giving him as much room as the 8 could. The 8 was up there against the wall trying to give Chase Elliott all the room, and Chase Elliott just pushed it a little bit. I don't know if you can really point to one of those drivers and say you did that wrong. I don't think Chase Elliott can be too upset with Reddick. Reddick gave him a lot of room, and Reddick can't let off the gas to let Chase Elliott go. So just an unfortunate situation for Chase Elliott, but that's how it goes at these road course races sometimes. He got bumped by Allmendinger earlier on, and then at the end of it, ended up getting turned by the 8 car. So it's disappointing. Chase Elliott once again did not win a race. You know, we talk about how good he is at road courses. Chase Elliott probably could have won Watkins Glen if he hadn't got moved out the way, and he probably could have won today. He would have won today if there wasn't a caution at the end of this thing. So that's obviously disappointing for him. Season to Chase Elliott is obviously still the championship favorite, but he could have a lot more wins on the year as well. But like I said, I want to talk about the playoffs, because eliminated in round 2 are these drivers. Alex Bowman, who missed the last 2 races. He is out for injury, obviously hoping he can get back in the car as soon as possible, as soon as he's healthy to get back in the race car. Unfortunate to see him get eliminated due to injury. Then you have Austin Cedric, was not able to get up there and get points. He got spun right at the end of this thing, and that obviously put him in a position to where he was most likely not going to make it. Austin Cedric eliminated. Daniel Suarez obviously had some issues with the power steering. He might have hit something. I don't think it was just a next-gen parts failure. He could have run into something or something of that sort, like everybody else who had problems did. But Daniel Suarez with that issue, whether he might not have run into anything, could have just been a part failure, I'm not sure. But Daniel Suarez ultimately eliminated, really due to that. He was 10 points above the cut line and then ended up being below the cut line after that catastrophic failure. Kyle Larson slams into the wall for some reason. Don't know what happened there quite. Messed up a toe link, I believe. The car was hard to turn. He lost a ton of position. Then with the caution at the end, that was able to allow drivers like Chase Briscoe and a few others to gain position, especially Christopher Bell, because when Christopher Bell wins, it moves the cut line up 1 position, and in that situation, it moved the cut line up above Kyle Larson by 2 points. Kyle Larson missed the next round of the playoffs by 2 points, and that's really disappointing for him. And Kyle Larson said in his interview, he's made a lot of mistakes this year. And that really has kind of been the theme of Kyle Larson's season. I go back to the Coke 600, made a mistake, lost the race due to that. I go back to Kansas all the way back in the spring. These are just some races I'm remembering off the top of my head. I believe there's a few more mistakes he's made. Took himself out at Kansas. Those are 10 playoff points alone right there that he could have gotten and didn't get because he didn't get those wins off of really driver error, driver mistake. So that's unfortunate as well. For him, but yeah, definitely got to fix those mistakes that he made this season going into next year. New car, there is somewhat of an excuse for it, but like Larson said, you can't win championships making as many mistakes as he did, and he has made a few mistakes this season that essentially could have cost him a round of 8 spot in the playoff. Of course, with that being said, let's go into next round of the playoffs, current playoff grid. This is going into Las Vegas next week. Chase Elliott, obviously, with all the points he's racked up, 31 points above, is safe. Can have a few mistakes, but definitely still needs to run good in this round of the playoffs if he wants to be in the top 4. Joey Logano, 11 points above. Chastain, 6 above. Christopher Bell, with the win today, puts him in the playoffs, 3 points above. William Byron, obviously, winning the appeal from last week. I think I needed to talk about that. Gave him 25 points more than he had after the Talladega race going into this race. So obviously Byron is still in, but he's below 3. Blaney below 3. Hamlin below 5. And Chase Briscoe, who I don't see making it in the next round, but he has snuck all the way to the round of 8. I had him getting eliminated in the first round of my grid. Definitely an upset by Chase Briscoe, capitalizing on everybody else's mistakes. but he's in there. He's in the final 8, and it's as close as it is in points right now. He could make it into the championship 4, so it'll be interesting to see what happens, and we'll have to continue to watch that. And I do want to talk about a few things that are concerning after this race that have to be addressed, and that, unfortunately, again, is the dirty air in the next-gen car, because, you know, it seems like at the mile and a half, things go way better. I mean, we're going to Vegas next week in Miami. I don't think we're going to see any problems. But I have serious concerns when we go to Martinsville again in the fall, which I might be in attendance for that race. It's going to be really disappointing if that race is depicted solely off of dirty air and maybe a couple of parts failures or tire failures. I know they're working to get a new tire for this race. I don't know. It was a bit upsetting today. I saw a lot of fans complaining about it, and I think it does need to be addressed because we had the NASCAR president come on air this morning in the pre-race show, or right before the race started, about 30 minutes before the race started, and he said, you know, the competition is great this year, and I know you're trying to promote your product, so I'm not bashing on him for saying that, but I do hope that NASCAR notices the dirty air problems in the low horsepower problems. You cannot have this low horsepower and you cannot have this much dirty air playing a role at the Roval race. If it was not on a restart, you could not pass in this race. It was so difficult to pass mid-pack. There was a little bit of passing through the field when it got single-filed out, when obviously the dirty air would eventually break up, but that's not good racing. You don't want to have that. If it wasn't for the caution, we shouldn't rely on a caution to save the race. If there wasn't a caution at the end of this race, Chase Elliott was going on to win. Nobody could touch him. Nobody was passing anywhere throughout the field. That's how that would have ended, and that's unfortunate. That's something NASCAR, I know they have to be looking into. The short tracks, the road courses, the product on track is right now unacceptable. We should not be having races depicted solely off of dirty air and stalling out. You know, there's races where you're going to have a driver dominate. That is okay, but the problem is when every other car behind the leader is stalling out and they can't pass. That is when it's not acceptable. It's acceptable to have races where one driver leads the whole race, like we were starting to have today, like we had at Road America. But the thing that's unacceptable is that the reasoning that's happening is the car stalling out due to dirty air. I wanted to address that. I think it's very important to address, but it shouldn't be in play in the next 2 weeks. But Martinsville, I'm really concerned. I really hope we don't have those issues at Martinsville upcoming. So that's it. That's all there is to talk about after a very exciting Roval race, a very exciting finish to the Roval race. And we do go to Las Vegas next week, so like and subscribe if you like the video. Obviously, tune into Dirty Air next week after NASCAR at Las Vegas. Should come on. Try to upload it as quick as I can after the race. So that is cool. And hey, Kyle Busch finishing in the top 3 today. A podium finish for Kyle Busch. Let's get rowdy.